Welcome back, guys. Thanks for joining me another week where I share my opinions on investing, personal finance, and entrepreneurship. Today, I will be talking about my very first experience as an entrepreneur and 5 things I learned from that experience. Now, if this is your first time on my channel, just go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Hit the notification bell as well, so each time I upload a new video, you'll be one of the first to know. If you like the topic of the video so far, just go ahead and hit that thumbs up button. Alright, so let's get into it. The very first thing I learned about being an entrepreneur is that you have to make sacrifices. Now, for me, the sacrifice I made to start as an entrepreneur was to actually sell my car. This all started in about early 2013. I think it was about January, to be honest. At that time, I owned a 1990 Nissan Sunny. I was also working at a call center. It was in the BPO industry at the time and so on. Now, for me personally, I wasn't seeing where I had a lot of growth in the BPO sector, and I need to actually start to diversify, start making money somewhere else. So I made the decision that January to say, hey, I'm going to sell my car, and the first thing I'm going to do is to actually try and see if I can get a taxi. So with this taxi, what I wanted to do was to have it in like an on-time taxi, where you actually call and they go and pick you up and so on. Personally, I thought having the taxi do a route type of thing was too risky for me. So that's why I choose this particular type of investment. Now, I sold my car in January. The money that I got from the car wasn't enough to purchase a new car to actually start the taxi business. So what I did at that point in time was to actually go to my mother. I told her my ideas and she believed in them at the time. So what she did was to actually take a loan out on my behalf. With this new loan, what I did was to actually go now and see if I could find a taxi. Now what I found was a 1996 Nissan Sunny. It's what we call a B14 in Jamaica. Now when I bought this B14, the next thing I did was to go to the taxi company at the time. I think it was City Guide Taxi. So I actually put the car into the City Guide Taxi service. Now it was going on good for a while and so on. Now with the car in the City Guide Taxi service, this was where I actually learned my second thing in investing. You need to monitor your investments. For me, the first thing I did after I bought my taxi was to actually put a tracker on it. The reason I put a tracker on it is because I didn't want the car to be always out on the road. If something happens, then I need to know where the car is, where it went. Let's say something happened to the driver. I actually put it there in an effort to also help the driver at the time. Now, fast forward, me and this driver, we have been doing this now for about a year plus. And I get a call one night. I'm actually out. I was out at a play. I think it was when Twin of Twins had their movie. So I was at this Twin of Twins movie. I get a call from my driver that he is stranded on Palisados. No, he's stranded on Palisados because we were having a lot of rain over the time period. So he's stranded on Palisados. According to him, water got into the engine and the car currently is not starting and he doesn't know what to do. So I said, okay, no problem. What I will do is as soon as my movie ends, I will come and tow the car myself. He says, okay. I get a call about 5 minutes later from my driver again. Now this time he's saying that there's a wrecker here and he is willing to take him to his house because he lives off Washington Boulevard at the time. So the wrecker is willing to take him to his house and it's going to cost $25,000. Now, mark you, this is a Sunday. I'm supposed to collect my earnings from the taxi Monday morning. The next thing my driver tells me is that he only has my money on him. So the only money he has is the money that he's supposed to be giving me tomorrow. I'm like, all right, no problem. If it is that you're in trouble, the wrecker is there to save you, then go ahead. I'm not going to tell you to sit there in the rain, in the water, and just wait until I get there. So he says, okay, the wrecker is going to take him for what he has and so on. I said, fine. So I'm like, in my head now, I'm like, oh, I'm going to need to buy an engine for this car. Because this happened to me before. I actually loaned a friend my car once, and he drove through some water, and at that time, the engine got damaged. Now, when water goes into your engine, you can't fix that engine. Because once the engine was running and it's hot, water goes in there, it causes the engine to cool rapidly. You have tons of stuff going wrong. Best thing to do, just change it, get it over with. Now, I learned that from this time when it happened with my friend. About an hour later, the driver calls me and says, hey, good news. The car started. I'm like, okay. So yes, man, the car started and it's driving now and everything is good again. It just had looked like we had to get out of the water and so far. I said, okay, no problem. Now, when he called me with that, the next thing I did was to actually call the tracking company. Because as I just said, if water gets into your engine, you have to buy a new one. Depending on the extent of it, you have to buy a new one. Right? Now, from what he told me at the time, I can say this would have been a very bad damage. Okay, so I said, all right, no problem. Call the tracking company. Can you give me the whereabouts of XYZ license plate number between 7 p.m. and 10:30 p.m. tonight? The rep I talked to said, okay, no problem. He comes back and said, all right, so this car has been parked at XYZ since 7 p.m. and it drove off at about 9:50. So it was parked for almost 3 hours in that particular spot. Granted, me and my driver has been talking since about 8:30. So he's parked up somewhere calling me and telling me that he's having a problem. No, this is not a problem for him. He's basically trying to weasel me out of my earnings for the week. Why? I don't know at this point. I said, okay, no problem. Next thing I do, I asked the tracking company to send me that list of places he went and so on. Next call I made, I just called my driver. I said, listen, you were at XYZ between 7 and 10:30. This is where you went. This is when you left and everything. Come tomorrow morning, I need my money. We're not going to have this conversation. I know you didn't have a problem. So ensure I get my money in the morning for my investment. So this is the very first instant where I knew that no matter what investment it is that you're going to do, you need to monitor it. Because let's say I didn't have that tracking company on my car, what would have happened? I would have been easily weaseled out of a week's worth of work. Now remember, now, I am an entrepreneur. I invested my money in that vehicle, so I expect to get a return. And he is here now trying to skimp on that obligation by not paying me. And I ensure that I got my money the next day. So whatever you do, guys, always ensure that you're always monitoring your investment. You need to know what is going on. Now, moving on from that, and next thing I learned was we always need to set boundaries. As entrepreneurs, we're not always going to be the one doing everything. We're not always going to be the one, or we're not always going to basically be head cook and bottle washer. We are going to need employees. We are going to need persons doing some of the tasks. We can't do it all alone. So this was where I also learned that you need to set boundaries. Now, my investment in taxi actually went up to where I actually had more than one car at one point. So I had 2 cars. When I purchased my second car, I got a new driver. Now, this driver, I had him for like about 3 or 4 weeks, thereabouts. Now, with this driver, I can tell you, boundaries were not set clearly from the very get go. So because of this, I have a driver now that is basically testing his limits to see where he can go. What he did, the very first week operating my vehicle, I got the entire take from him. He brought all my money in. Like, okay, yes, this is going great. The next week, he came in, the money is short. I'm like, what's going on here? He's like, boy, we had a bad week, so I'm not sure what's going on. What I'll do is, if next week is better, I'll go ahead and make it up at that point in time. So I'm like, okay. Being a naive investor, I'm like, okay. Next week comes. It's short even more this time. Now, remember that this is the third week this guy has been working with me. The first week is good. Second week, you're short. The third week, you're short even more. Like, boy, this week was also bad, so I'm going to try to make it up next week and see what happens. And I said, okay, no problem again. So he leaves. So we have this now. So now you owe me for the second and third week. So I need to be collecting additional money for the fourth week. Now, on the fourth week, I call my driver. Now, normally I collect every Monday from a driver because the week would end on a Sunday for me or a Saturday. So I'll give them a day and then on a Monday I would collect. Call my driver on a Monday. Yes, I soon come and see you. I soon come and see you. Nothing. Call them about 3 times a Monday. Nothing. Tuesday, same thing. Then Wednesday, I notice he turns up. He turns up Wednesday evening. No, he's currently now 3 days late. Wednesday evening. And when he comes to me Wednesday evening, he's going to tell me that, hey, the money is short. No, this money is short worse than the first and second week. As a matter of fact, it's absolutely horrible the way this money is short. So I'm like, but you brought money to me short first, the second week and the third week. What's going on here? It's like, I had a family emergency on Tuesday and I had to use some of the money. I'm like, no. You cannot use my money for family emergencies. We have an obligation. You're supposed to come in every Monday to bring my money to me. So if you're having an issue on Tuesday, that's the next week's problem, not last week. So you should have brought my money to me. So as I said, people, in anything you do, once you have your employees, you need to set boundaries. You cannot have everybody just going around willy-nilly doing what they want, because at some point it is going to backfire on you. And we can see clearly in that scenario, it backfired on me. If I told him from the very get-go, the second week he shorted my money, that listen, park that car right there. If this is the second week and this is how we're doing business, I'm sure he would not have done it for the third week, much less the fourth week. So always set boundaries. You always need to make a clear distinction between you and your employee. In essence, you cannot be friends. Another thing I learned was you need to monitor your cash flow. Now, by monitoring your cash flow, you know when you're making profit. You know when you're making losses. You also know how much money you're putting in. You know when you start to put in more money. You also know when it is that the vehicle is not covering its costs. Now, why this is truly important, when I was in the taxi industry, it started to get to a point where every week I am collecting from the vehicles working, but I'm still broke and I cannot understand why. All right. if I'm collecting from the taxis every week, I should at least have my paycheck. So even if the taxes are always going down, something is always happening, I should at least have my money from my job. So the taxes should actually cover itself. But this is not happening. I am broke. I am struggling to find money. I have to be there waiting for the taxes to come in every week. No, I didn't notice at the time, but to be honest, when I look back at it now, it reached a point where the taxes were actually a loss-making endeavor. They were actually making me poor instead of trying to make me wealthy, which was the original purpose of investing in taxi in the first place. So I had to be buying tires. Every week something else happens to the car. And this car has to be helping to fix this one. And then after this one is fixed, then it has to help to fix this one. And then where both of them fall short, I have to be taking it out of my pocket to fix these cars. So you have to know your cash flow. You have to know when to draw the line. The last thing I learned from the taxi industry is to know when to cut your losses. Now, after my very first two taxis, because in total I actually invested in three taxis. First I had two, then I had a slight downturn in my situation. So I had to sell one. I had one still. And after I had that one, I sold it. And then it was at that point I decided, all right, I'm going to try this thing one more time. When I tried for the last time, it was going very good. To be honest, it was going very good. What happened was that I was still having issues with number four. I wasn't monitoring my cash flow. I was using the taxis money to pretty much finance my lifestyle. So if something was wrong with the taxi, I had to actually take it out of my pocket. It reached a point where I was having so much issues with the taxi that it needed 4 shocks. It needed 4 tires. Now, at this point that it needed 4 tires, 4 shocks, what I needed to do, what I was actually trying to do was to get the red plate, let everything become legitimate. Because at the time it was a illegal robot taxi at the time. So I was trying to get everything legitimate by getting the red plate and doing all that was needed to become a legitimate taxi in a taxi company. Now, while trying to start this, I had to get a police report. Now, the police report is not that hard to get, but I had such a tight deadline to get everything that I don't know, it just wasn't possible. And then in that same time, my driver decided to say, hey, you know what? This guy's a joker. He's not fixing the car. Because I said, it needed 4 shocks, it needed 4 tires. No, that was on me. Because if I have a good driver, I should be taking care of him, to be honest. But that's just something you learn over time. So he decided that he's going to park the car. When he parked the car and I look at it and I'm saying that, hey, if I need to get this thing legitimate, I'm going to have to get 4 tires, 4 shocks. At the time, I did not have the money for 4 tires or 4 shocks. So this was where it dawned on me that, hey, maybe now is the time to try and get out of the taxi business. No, I mulled it over for a while and then I'm like, maybe it's right. Maybe it's the time I try something else. So what I did at this point, I went ahead and gave the car a complete makeover. Spray job, everything. Now, after I did this, I sold it. I didn't even have long to sell it because something on it needed to be welded, and the person that was doing the welding, he just said, hey, he likes the car, he's going to buy it. I'm like, all right, no problem, dude, just take it and go. So it was after this that I decided to leave the taxi business and go into my current endeavor. Now, we have time, so at some point in time, I will tell you about my current endeavor, how it's going, and what I am doing to actually make it better. Thanks for watching, guys. So if you haven't yet subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Hit the notification bell as well, so that every time I upload a new video, you'll be one of the first to know. Now, if we have reached this point, just please go ahead and hit that thumbs up button because obviously you like the video so far. Also, remember, everything I share on my channel is my personal opinion. If you need more specific information tailored to you, always speak to your licensed portfolio advisor before you make any investment decisions.